You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Welcome back to the Making Data Simple series. I think maybe we should start making this series Making Data Complex, so then we can further validate how important it is to make it simple. Deep Thoughts by Al Martin. Hey, welcome back. Today I have two guests, and we're going to talk about inside machine learning, if we can stay on topic. We got Ben Amaba and David Kevnick. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for inviting us.
Doing great. Thanks, Al.
You bet. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, but Dave is the technical business unit executive for cloud and analytics here at IBM, the industrial market. And Ben is the chief innovation officer for the industrial sector, Watson and Cloud Platform. So, well, let me just jump right in, let you get a chance to introduce yourselves, and then we'll just jump into several questions I already have. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Al. So Dave Kevnick here. I've spent most of my professional career in the automotive space, 26 years plus here. Currently, I am operating as the IBM Cloud Technical Executive for the U.S. industrial market, which includes the automotive sector, along with a few other sectors. I'm responsible for leading a team of technical sales professionals that deliver business solutions infused with cloud analytics and cognitive services for clients here in the industrial market. My career in automotive, as mentioned, is quite expansive. I started my career working with electronic data systems at General Motors many, many years ago, and building and architecting large-scale business solutions for the automotive sector, mostly in marketing, dealer systems, captive automotive finance, to name a few. And my real sweet spot here is working and solutioning, aligning technology with the key business opportunities that our clients are facing in the automotive space. I think that sums it up.
Oh, thank you. Ben, you're up.
Well, thank you. I work for Dave. It's been a great ride. Innovation plus execution is huge. So that's my focus in the industrial sector. My doctorate is in industrial systems and systems engineering, also with MBA. I also have the APEX certification for manufacturing, as well as the LEED certification, which is the Facilities for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. One unique thing is I am actually a licensed professional engineer in the industrial sector, and I've been doing this about 30 years cross-industrial sector. The last few research publications we had, of course, are in the automotive sector and what it takes to actually innovate in this sector because of ride sharing, car sharing, and even the autonomous vehicle and electric vehicle. So I'm very interested in that. We're working with a lot of customers that are looking at data as another form of information that's optimizing what I call the 4 M's: materials, machinery, manpower, and money. So I think there's a lot of innovation occurring. We see it in our personal lives, and I'm very excited to share some of the things we are doing, what we're researching, and what we've already completed.
So if I was to oversimplify, and this is not probably fair, but by the way, I want to get back into the 4 M's. But if I was to oversimplify between you both, it's around automotive brands and it's around machine learning and AI instrumented with those brands. Is that fair or is that not fair?
No, that's fair. In fact, that is a stepping stone in this journey. Machine learning has taken a very large part. In fact, it's almost a 14-to-1 ratio of projects that were traditionally just in data sciences moving into artificial and in machine learning. So it's a major segment, not only in auto, but cross-industry, because now auto is becoming part of other industries, public sector. The autonomous vehicle can't operate without the roads being adaptable to that vehicle. So it's broadening its reach in machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and Al, I would add on top of what Ben said there, that it's certainly fair as we see almost all of our clients moving up the ladder towards machine learning and AI. It's being infused in many places, and we'll talk maybe about autonomous vehicles here a little bit. how our clients interact with their customers and the expectations from customers. AI is everywhere, and having the solid foundation of information architecture and this data-driven culture is really key.
So, moment of truth, and I'll go back and forth so that I catch at least one of you by surprise. Ben, what car do you drive?
I drive a couple of vehicles. In fact, I just bought a vehicle because I was on the Toyota account. I wanted to see actually how the process runs within them selling and making vehicles, and I wanted to see the new technology into the vehicle. So I just literally bought a Toyota Highlander. Of course, I have a Lexus and MDX, so I like playing with these vehicles. So yeah, I just literally less than 2 weeks ago, I wanted to see what the new vehicles are really capable of.
How's the Highlander? Good?
Awesome. The code that everybody talks about, right, that might be even more code in that vehicle than the Joint Strike Fighter is definitely out there. It's a layered defense system. There's a lot of things going on here where I thought the autonomous vehicle was going to be 4 or 5 years out. I think it's closer to us than we believe so. Now, there's been some pushback on certain incidences that happen in the United States, but the technology is definitely getting there, and the amount of innovation and professionals that are doing this is phenomenal.
All right, Dave, what car do you drive?
Well, I must add a little story before I tell you what car I drive. My dad worked for Ford Motor Company for 42 years. I live and reside in the Detroit area, so I too drive a Ford Motor Company vehicle. I drive a Ford Explorer. But I like to say my garage is a little bit of like the Switzerland of Detroit. I have all the Detroit makes represented, from General Motors to Jeep to Ford, but I drive the Ford.
I see. Good political answer there towards the end. I like it. But I can relate. My father-in-law is it's interesting, actually. My grandfather worked for GM. My father-in-law worked for Ford. And guess which car that I'm forced to buy. I could go so both sides. Actually, so it's both sides of the family. But guess which one that I have nothing but this brand in my garage. It's
I'm going to guess it's a Ford. There we go.
Because my wife rules the roost. I mean, it doesn't matter what my family has. Her family's Ford, and by God, I'm going to get a Ford. That's how it works. Happy wife, happy life. That's how it goes.
That's it.
But I actually got a Ford Raptor, and I have to say it's pretty cool. I really like it. The only problem is I need to be brave enough to take it off-road. Anyway, so look, let's jump into a couple of different things. I know we're going to get to autonomous vehicles. We're going to get to the 4Ms. I would like to talk to start about what you see is the disruptions in the industry right now, in the automotive industry. What makes it so prime for disruption in your view?
Go
ahead.
Sorry, Ben. I'll jump in first, and then you can jump on top of it. The disruption that I see, and I think many of us are seeing bits and pieces of this, is how the future consumer is going to view automobiles. And what I'm going to talk a little bit about, and I know Ben can augment this as well, is the whole sharing economy. We're seeing, the major automotive manufacturers in North America are seeing where folks aren't really going to all own vehicles in the future. It's very much about sharing, and I think of some of the sharing services that everybody talks about, Lyft and Uber, but the ones that we don't talk about are Turo and Getaround, where folks are actually owning vehicles but sharing them. It's almost like the Airbnb of vehicles, and so that's changing the way the industry works. And then obviously the ride-sharing services like Lyft and Uber are obviously prevalent as well.
Anything else you had to add, Ben?
I agree with Dave. What's happening in this world, right? If you look at the top companies, they've evolved through 4 stages, right? They started producing products, they added services, which, right, the auto industry did. They started implementing technology, but it still wasn't good enough. What the real good companies are doing is actually creating a network through their platform. And that's what these automotive dealers are transitioning into. The vehicle is no longer just a product that's serviced, that has technology. They're creating a network of networks. The sharing economy is absolutely prevalent as we see car sharing, car subscription, ride sharing. It's becoming a network. Not only can you just drive up through some of these vendors and your car becomes your credit card, it's actually moving into this network environment, and it's playing a node, a critical node in our infrastructure. Now, what I see so much different that other industries may not have caught on to is not only have they embedded this technology into the product as we see it, but they've embedded this technology in the process. So what we traditionally known as manual Kanban or JIT, they're turning it into the electronic forms that connects to the 4 M's: materials, manpower, machinery, and money. And because of this digital data transformation, it's able to optimize the 4 M's. Now, where other industries have not caught up is they have these internal challenges, which the automotive dealers understood and are starting to make these collaborations. Those internal challenges included 3 major areas. They had to deal with data silos, which the automotive companies are overcoming, and you see, partnerships between many of the car shops that are out there. The responsiveness is much faster. You're seeing, instead of models released every 4 to 5 years, they're going every 1 or 2 years and can sunset a product almost as quickly as they released it. And of course, the expertise and skills. You don't see them just traditionally hiring automotive engineers. They're coming from human factors individuals. Fiat made partners with Google, Ford with Sipes. Even Toyota just invested in Uber. So you've got these cross-collaboration skills that their product line is not only getting closer to the consumer as a network, they're becoming that platform where you're really going B2B to C, right? Something that we've all longed for, to see transparency out there. So now the dealer isn't an obstacle, but a dealer in the automotive world has become a partner all the way down to the end user. So what are they doing? They're turning from just producing products, from servicing those products, to implementing technology to a network of network. That's what the vehicle is becoming in this sharing economy.
So say that last part again. Say where you were talking about network to network. I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah, they're no longer. When I say a network to network, now they're going to be able to drive through Starbucks or a retail store without taking your credit card, right? It identifies itself through the VIN ID or through certain technologies like Bluetooth. So it's becoming a networking platform within the data or ecosystem world, right? It's just not a product, right? A vehicle that takes you from A and B. They just don't want to service the product, meaning changing your oil, and they just don't want you to be enamored that your car can back up and give you a visual recognition in the back. They want that vehicle to be part of a network of services, products, and technology.
What were your 4 M's again? Go back to those. I just want to
the 4 M's: materials, machinery, manpower, and money.
Why are those your 4? I mean, what do those 4 represent?
Those represent what goes into the life cycle of a company, right? Those are the 4 flows that probably are the most expensive and most resource intense, and they give you the competitive advantage, right? So you get a new paint, like a new kind of paint, that material could set you apart from all the other vehicles that are out there. Machinery, right? In Toyota's case, Kanban and what they did in the process, the machines changed the world, right? Of course, the money, you get money and you've got cash flow, it can make a world of difference, right? Cash is king. And then fourth, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Of course, what?
And then the manpower, right? You don't have those STEM type innovations that can exceed more than just the vehicle, right? Which is the focus, right? Playing the long game. Those people are now worth more than the assets because they set the vision, they can stop the line, and your input. Look at the vehicles of today versus 10 years ago. Just the trunk was actually driven by individuals that had to slide groceries into their car, right? So even the back of the vehicle depended on these innovative people that could actually identify what the problem is, which IBM's great at because we adopted, design thinking. So the people are a huge component of it. But if you look at those 4 M's, those are the most critical elements that you've got to juggle. And the way you juggle those is optimize that with information. Information comes from what? Data.
So Dave, how is, I know that you guys are working intimately with many of these corporations. I mean, what does IBM add to the equation here? What are we working on? Where do we complement these companies well?
Well, I think where we complement them well is really comes back down to the foundation. As Ben mentions, material, machinery, manpower, and money. We bring to the table not only the industry knowledge through folks like Ben and myself and others in IBM, but we bring the basic tools that help them get their hands around their data-driven culture. And there's data all over the place in this situation here. We've got data coming from vehicles, data coming from sensors, data coming from partners in this B2B2C marketplace that Ben's talking about. We provide the how do I want to say it? We provide the data stores that for all of this data, whether it be public, private, cloud, any device, we provide the governance around it. We provide the data science, helping them put it into a form that drives them towards AI, machine learning and AI ultimately, and achieving value. That's where we bring it. It's industry knowledge plus the tools and the different techniques we bring to the table.
So essentially, we're building the AI ladder for them. Everything from data, governance, analytics, machine learning, AI.
Correct, and it's only valuable when we bring that industry knowledge with it, having some knowledge of our client space and what they're trying to do. And Ben talked about the different. He called it B2B2C, but it's no longer a linear model. It's more of like a scatter chart of different players in the industry, from data presenters to the platform owners, as Ben mentioned, that all are working in concert to, at the end of the day, achieve business value and monetize the data, provide new services to the automotive consumer.
How does the industry knowledge help out in this? I mean, what differentiates what IBM brings in this case with the industry knowledge that when complemented with the technologies you describe, we'll tout on IBM for a minute, that set IBM apart?
I love talking in acronyms. Why is the business or industry so important? If you imagine two islands, the business and the technology island, the farther the gap is between the business island and the technology island, which almost every C-level executive will tell you, is the CEO doesn't understand exactly what the CIO's technology is. The CIO is sometimes accused of looking at the shiny new penny, but doesn't understand the industry. So there's this journey between the business island and the technology island. The farther away those two are, the gap and the likelihood of the boat, right, another acronym, BOAT, is more than likely to capsize. BOAT is for business, the organization, and then in our case, artificial intelligence, machine learning is the A, and then the technology, the infrastructure. What is IBM so good at, and why is the business important? We understand both islands. And by the way, both islands are shifting because of this digital transformation. But what is in the boat, right, the business, the organization, artificial, and technology that's so good to IBM? It's the engineering behind the boat. What do we have that nobody else that can travel these tumultuous seas? Not only the experience of 100+ years dealing with data, we have the innovation that we've actually executed on, right? We drink our own Kool-Aid. We've got the industry knowledge, but our actions in itself, OpenAI, hybrid managed cloud, the acquisition of Red Hat, we're in this boat and in this journey with our customers. This isn't something that we're looking afar from one island or the next that hope that our customers can make that trip without the boat sinking. We're in that boat. We've engineered that boat. It's based on experience. It's based on methodology, and it's proven.
I did a pitch the other day where I was talking about when the car took over the horse and buggy. And it took essentially 23 years. By the time the Model T came out in 1916, and it was completely eradicated. I mean, the horse and buggy was completely eradicated in all rural areas, urban, rural alike, by, I think, 1939. But you had to go through the Great Depression, which elongated that. And by most cities, even by 1913, 15, certainly by 1920, they were already completely vehicles versus horse and buggy. How long do you think this is going to take before we look outside our window and it's nothing but autonomous vehicles?
That's hard to say. I know the car companies will cut it down in about half.
Yeah, but what's your feel? I mean, this is we won't hold you to it, Ben. We'll nobody's hell. They'll forget about this podcast by then.
Yeah, I believe that it will take, personally, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see 90% of it at level 4 and probably about 10% in full autonomy in big cities conservatively.
I've read.
What have you read? Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to jump in. Apologies, Al. I've read, where we go to the full level 5 full automation, we're talking 2030 for the majority of vehicles on the road to be in that level. So we're still a few years out. So
probably 15 years by the time it really kind of started. I don't know, when did it start? When did the onset? I mean, this has been in the making for some time. But like for example, my example, I said the Model T was created in 1916, and that's really when things started changing. What was the trigger point for autonomous vehicles?
I think part of it was social, but I think the technology, when I look at the technology on LiDAR, some of the sonar, some of the mapping, it's always been out there. I think the biggest hindrance is going to be public policy and social acceptance. The Tempe, Arizona thing did not help there, but I think those two elements, again, social and public policy, is actually going to advance it faster if we can overcome those hurdles. The technology itself, it's available.
I mean, think of autonomous vehicle. I think there's a cultural change that needs to happen. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think that's a huge part of it. Absolutely.
Here are the stats. In 2015, the critical reason accidents occur is related to the driver 94% of the time. Safe International Roads said nearly 1.3 million people die in road crashes each year. An additional 20 to 50 million people are injured or disabled. By automating this claim could be driven down by millions of lives a year, according to Freeman 2016. So it's the better alternative for those lives that, we will see some slight fatalities, but compared to what's going on today, it's significant, right? The autonomous vehicle will save lives.
Hey, look, I know that I probably derailed a lot of the questions just out of my interest. Is there anything that I didn't get to that you guys would like to make sure is said about technology and, either IBM's working with the automotive industry and or just the automotive industry in general as it relates to technology that we didn't get to?
I think one of the things, too, as we get to AI and machine learning is not only that IBM's got the methodology and there's new methodologies and processes, i.e. design thinking, systems, and software engineering, that are actually coming together or converging to make sure we deliver the right product at the right time and has a sustainability area. I think other technologies surrounding artificial intelligence and machine learning, which Dave and I have discovered, are things like blockchain, right? There's always been a question of bias and truthfulness about machine learning and artificial intelligence. And what a lot of the people in the auto industry are doing to actually make that more secure and a higher integrity are other technologies or adjacent technologies like blockchain. So we're seeing to make sure that you have privacy, security, consensus in a shared ledger where the information is distributed. I think there are these adjacent technologies that are going to affect artificial intelligence and machine learning. So my argument is, i.e. in the boat, there are a lot of technologies that are going to take you down this journey. We've got to be able to deal not only with the legacy technology, but the emerging technology and technology we may not know of. So I consider this a journey, and we've got to look at the system as a whole as we're going down there, the social sciences, the physical sciences, and the mathematical sciences. But it is a difficult problem, but it's nothing that we haven't accomplished in the past.
And one of the things not related to what Ben was saying there, and just to kind of go back to a previous point here and some more data, if you will, on where we are with autonomous vehicles. In 2017, the estimate was 99.9% of all vehicles on the road did not have the technology to enable full autonomy. And the estimates are by 2040, 95% of all new vehicles sold will be fully autonomous. So a bit farther out than what I said earlier. 2040 for 95% of all vehicles was the guess here.
2040. That's quite a while. That's more than I would. That's longer than I would think. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, look, I want to pivot real quick. Then thank you guys very much for that. I greatly appreciate it. What I would like to do is ask you guys a few personal questions just to get to know you, so our listeners get to know you. It's what I call the kind of lightning round, like a 30-second answer to a couple of questions that, again, our audience seems to find interest in because they give me a lot of feedback that they do. Are you game?
Absolutely.
Sure, with nervous anticipation, I'm game.
Some will be easy, some maybe not so much. You can always say pass. So this one's a little bit, it's just a personal viewpoint, not so much about you, but what do you think the biggest myth is out there in the automotive technology?
The biggest myth?
Yeah. What do you think is just not really happening or is untrue or is false information or overhyped information?
You know, for me, maybe I don't think this is a big myth, but it's definitely out there. I don't think this is the responsibility of just the auto manufacturers. I think this is an ecosystem play, which will include public sector, it'll include end users, it'll include infrastructure and extenuating things, right? The retailers, so forth and so on, because it's going to change the traffic patterns. Not that it's a big myth, but I don't think people have to put the burden on just the automotive manufacturers. I think it's more than that, right? It's a network of networks, and we as personal citizens ought to take a personal role in that. That means, especially in your city, in your local government, there's jurisdictions voting on this as we speak, and most of the people are actually ignoring their role in it. So the myth is that, hey, this is a manufacturer's issue. They've got to resolve the issues. I think it's a personal issue that we all have to consider because it does benefit or hurt us personally. And like the trolley problem, right, which is the big problem that circulates around vehicles, that's us in the trolley problem. We need to all take responsibility and participate.
Fair enough. So I'll just move on to the next question. Just in non-automotive related, but what's the most important habit for leaders to develop to become more effective?
I think Dave here, and I think that one of the most effective things, and I try to do this on a daily basis, is have empathy and get out and lead by example. If you're out there leading from the front, showing, actually doing, having empathy for what the individual's doing, you're gonna gather their trust and respect and you know their drive to crash through walls for you. And so just getting out there and showing and doing with them.
Ben, you try to chime in there too, or?
Yeah, you know, I really think that the world is changing from managers to leaders, and we're becoming working managers. I think we need to take accountability. I think, you know, the obvious cliches that innovation belongs to all of us. It's not necessarily a role, it's a responsibility. So from a personal perspective, non-automotive, non-industrial, this technology revolution is playing a big part in our livelihood. And I do believe that public and private partnerships where all of us get involved, because we're creating the future that, you know, used to come in 20, 30, even 90-year increments, is coming into 5, 3, and 1-year increments. But it's an exciting time. So we should all be, quote unquote, future ready for what's coming down the path. Instead of being directed, we need to instruct. I think we need to be inclusive. I don't think we need to be repetitive. We need to be innovative, and we need to be challengers beyond just problem solvers, as well as entrepreneurs, no matter what institution you're working for.
No, I think it's, look, I got a key on that one because that hits close to home. In fact, just recently we had a speed mentoring session, and the one thing that I came out with that is, look, I think it's the end of managers. There's no more managers. I mean, you got to be a leader or else, and that leader means continuous learning. And I think the other thing it means, and this is for everybody, is that you got to be vulnerable. The reason I say that is because if you side towards perfection, that means you're not taking gambles. That means you're not taking risk. That means you're not it can be intelligent risk, but you're not taking risk. That means you're not learning and putting yourself out there, and you will not survive in this environment. Being vulnerable means that you're going to go learn things. You're going to try new things. You're going to take risks that you wouldn't otherwise take, but they can still be calculated. But in the long run, that's the way you survive in this environment because it's changing ever so rapidly. We've surpassed Moore's law at this point in time. Last question. One thing that you want to learn right now, or within the year. I mean, if it's significant. But what's the most important thing you want to learn right now? It kind of transitions right from the last dialogue we had.
For me, right, it's the idea of inclusive thinking, right? How can we take this diverse population and better utilize diversity and inclusion? I think that is the key to innovation, and I think as we include more people, diverse ideas, and work together, like you said, as leaders, I think that's the thing we need to learn. And the methods and the approaches and the thinking from XY management style to this network style is becoming the prevalent way to become. It's a network of networks. No longer are we just, producing products, serving to those products, or even throwing technology at it. I think we need to learn how to adapt, how to what I call fail safe and fail forward. We are either winning or learning. I don't think there's anything bad about, failing. I remember Mark Randolph in one of his speeches for Netflix. Had he taken the advice of everybody else, today we wouldn't have Netflix and taken that calculated risk. Were other vendors that were monopolies practically in that video world, they didn't take the risk. They were almost 600 times bigger than them, but they got myopically focused in keeping the past, and it wasn't allowing us to move forward. But the world will move forward with or without them. So I want to learn how to be more inclusive in a diverse world, and I think all of us will benefit. As the tide rises, all ships rise.
Nice. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, good question. I'll take it a different angle than Ben, and I think this is just a continuous learning path for me, and my quest to always understand my clients, the business problems they face, and applying technology to those problems. And the big learning path for me here in the foreseeable future, and I've been on it for quite some time now, is trying to take this whole concept of public, private, and hybrid cloud, the huge focus on Kubernetes, Docker, open source, and how we can move applications from whether they be serverless or whether they be modernizing applications, and trying to figure out how that fits in that architecture that actually brings business value to our clients, and that's where my head is.
Both good answers. See how easy that was? And by the way, if I'd have listened to others, I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. So I agree with you, Ben. So thank you both for spending your time with me and putting up with me. I know I thought a lot of unorthodox questions out there. I don't know if they're good for a podcast or not, but just things that I'm interested in. But thank you for giving all that a go. All good. I learned a lot, all good answers. So I appreciate everything you guys bring to the table here. Hey, where can the folks listening reach you both if they have questions, comments, Ben or Dave?
The best way to find me and reach me would be through LinkedIn. Very easy to find, Dave Kevnick, and that's Kevnick.
I'll put that on the show notes. Same for you, Ben? Or?
Absolutely. Best way is LinkedIn right now.
For all of you that are listening, thank you for attending today. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit IBMBigDataHub.com/podcasts to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, over and out.